January 26, 2021. Ms. Green, would you please call the roll?
Most certainly. Director Case.
Here.
Director Foley.
Here.
Director Hamilton. Director Mendieta Ramos.
Here.
Director Mitchell.
Here.
Director Mays.
Here.
Director Olson.
Here.
Director Fafsa.
Here.
Director Wilson.
All right, we have a quorum. Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, we are in compliance with the open meetings law.
I understand that we have comments from the public. Is it still 2 who are registered? All right, I'm not hearing a response. I understand that we have a request to make public comments from Dewey Canton.
Yes, it's Dewey Caton and I am here.
Okay, before we start, I just want to repeat that board policy A0107 states, quote, "No person may speak more than once to an issue or for a period longer than 5 minutes, except upon the consent of a majority of the district board. No more than 3 people may be heard to one side of an issue, except upon the consent of the district board." And that the board will not be responding to any matter that is raised in public comments in adherence to the state of Wisconsin open meetings law, which prevents a governmental body from discussing any specific item that was not publicly noticed on the agenda. Having said all those preliminaries, Ms. Caton, would you please go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dewey Caton. I'm Vice President of Part-Time Faculty for Local 212. I've been a faculty member teaching mathematics at MATC for 7 years. I also am co-chair of a committee addressing faculty assignment concerns. Thank you for the opportunity to address you on behalf of over 700 part-time faculty and several hundred full-time faculty who regularly seek overtime assignments. I am here to bring an urgent, multifaceted problem to the attention of the board and the president. Last week on January 20th, Dr. Martin sent a communication to all employees addressing employment challenges and stating that current full-time equivalent student enrollment is below budget. Enrollment is the largest driver of our budget, Dr. Martin noted, and enrollment challenges create budget challenges. She noted that existing cost-saving measures have allowed us to continue existing pay practices and that we will continue to maintain this, to strive to maintain this. What is the reality? Many part-time faculty are going without assignments this semester with no income from the college. It is a de facto layoff or furlough. Dozens and dozens of other part-time faculty have had a significant decrease to their load, as much as 50% or more reduction in their income. The Human Resources Department reported our unemployment claims have had a huge increase due to part-time faculty submissions. There is the opportunity for part-time faculty to apply for unemployment compensation benefits while the college researches the best solution moving forward, end quote. Dr. Martin, with all respect, this is not the typical pay practices that we have experienced as faculty. Granted, the college has been hurt by declining enrollment. Last year, tuition was down approximately 10%, but that was far from the largest component of the budget that showed other large increases, including real estate tax revenue up 1.3 million, federal revenues up, and state appropriations and grants up. The college receives federal CARES Act funds to help deal with the costs of the pandemic. Query, did any of that money make it to the instructors in the classroom or help pay for instructor salaries? Is any of that money being used to help fund lower student instruction ratios required in a face-to-face classroom where you need social distancing? It appears not. MATC's Department of Institutional Research recently reported to the board that well over 60% of instruction moved to online in the fall of 2020, including virtual classes, as compared to 2% the prior year. So online virtual has gone from 2% to 60%. Previously, 78% of the college's classes were in person, and that has dropped to 12% from 78%. Perhaps that is a badge of honor for the college, being able to pivot to that extent as the result of the pandemic. However, there is a tremendous human impact and cost that has not been brought to your attention. Due to a high percentage of classes being online and virtual, nearly 80%, enrollment in each section is maximized by the college. For example, 24 seats in an online section can easily be filled to the maximum. Students don't have to attend in person, so they can be added to any online section. The college can maximize tuition revenue per instructor, unlike a normal semester. In other words, tuition and fees have maximized for the 80% of class sections, while instructor compensation has been decreased. This has come at a massive expense to part-time faculty's livelihoods. Many of the college's part-time faculty are going without assignments this semester with no income from the college, and as I mentioned, it's a de facto layoff or furlough. Many others have had a significant decrease in their load, as much as 50%. Now, I worked over 22 years in the business world in legal and business functions at global Fortune 100 companies before I switched to teaching. If the business shift suffered a downturn like Harley-Davidson and a reduction in force, layoff, or furlough became necessary, it was a closely planned strategic process. HR and senior management worked closely together to identify cost-saving strategies to minimize the human impact. Open positions are put on hold. Organizational structure is flattened. Travel budgets and discretionary spending are cut. However, at this institution, the de facto layoff rolled out, apparently without strategy, without appropriate attention and compassion from the Human Resources and Learn Administration. On January 8, we met with the VP of Learning and raised these issues. We asked two questions. Could course enrollments be leveled or split, meaning split a course filled to 24 students to add additional sections? Second, are other temporary employment opportunities available for part-time faculty with no income? Perhaps help with the call center, counseling, student retention, or other areas. Had mistakes been made in enrollment management? Reportedly, 500 students were deregistered on January 5 for a lack of a financial plan. On Monday, January 11th, I think the date was, the call center had to post a recording for students to call back the next day because over 100 students, I had heard 150 students, were in the queue on hold. Fast forward to today, and we're being told again that the college is looking into this and that they're doing what's best for students, quote unquote, and addressing part-time load issues. On January 21st, we were told our January 8 question of potential other employment had previously been referred to HR. HR advised last week and yesterday that legal issues had to be looked into, such as wage and hour laws and the ACA, and this will take time to get it right. What has rolled out in the past 3 weeks? Burdens on faculty leads, not the employer, to determine who is going to get assignments and how to eliminate and consolidate sections. Briefly, in one department alone, over 50 sections were eliminated the week before classes started. In another department, even more sections had to be canceled and consolidated, triggering reassignments to try to make sure full-time faculty had full load. Because the semester started on Sunday, January 17th, Learn Administration gave a deadline of January 12th to unassigned part-time faculty, 5 days before the start of a semester, to avoid paying part-time faculty $350 in compensation. Working nights and weekends, faculty leads consolidated and canceled classes. In one department, 30 part-time faculty, 30, have taken approximately a 50% or more cut in assignments, with corresponding decrease in their typical income. In another department, 15 part-time faculty have gone without any assignments whatsoever due to COVID. We do not have concrete numbers to share with you on the number of part-time faculty who lost all or 50% of their assignments, or full-time faculty who gave up their overload voluntarily to assist their colleagues. We don't have the data on how many COBRA letters are going out to part-time faculty who have lost medical coverage, but they're going out. These are loyal employees of the college who are personally bearing the financial brunt of the decline. We have had meaningful meetings with Dr. Nadine Gonzalez de Jesus, who has been in place only a few weeks. No meaningful help or assistance came from the learning administration who reports to her, however. We've been told that enrollment is down. It is all about FTEs. I cannot go to Dr. Martin and say we missed budget so badly. Expenses are up due to COVID. We queried, why can't sections be split? The revenues are up per course. Why can we not level and split classes to return to pre-pandemic student per course ratios?
One more minute, please.
Thank you. I want to briefly turn to the CARES Act. There are quarterly reports that have to be filed by the institution and an annual report that must be filed on February 1. The CARES Act and the subsequent statutes specifically provide funds for instructional costs, salaries, when courses have to be reduced in size due to COVID. Those legislative matters also specifically provide for instructional salaries and the fact that employees should continue to be paid to the greatest extent practicable by the college if they're going to receive HERF and CARES funds. What have we found, though, in the quarterly reports? No money spent towards instructional salaries. Dr. Martin and the board, I submit to you that existing cost-saving measures have not allowed you to continue existing pay practices. I submit to you that you just did not have all the relevant information. Unemployment claims have had a huge increase. Many part-time faculty have no income, and 50% have a reduction in income. And our full-time faculty colleagues have lost or voluntarily forgone their overload. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second public speaker is Mr. Mulvaney. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm looking for you on the screen here. There you are. Go
There
ahead.
I am. There I am. Good afternoon, Director Foley, members of the MATC board and MATC administration. As you probably know, I am Kevin Mulvaney, a longtime faculty member and the Executive Vice President of AFT Local 212. I come here, as I always do, first to thank you for your voluntary service to our great college and welcome you to the spring 2021 semester, as weird as it's probably going to be. When I last addressed you, I came to express how stressed and overwhelmed faculty were given the current pandemic and the mounting workload and requirements that it was causing. I am pleased to report that in true form, we were able to work collaboratively with the administration to make needed progress to free faculty from less than essential work and deadlines that didn't directly impact students. I know that you as a board had a hand in encouraging those efforts, and I thank you for your listening and responding accordingly. I would also like to publicly welcome Dr. Nadine Gonzalez Jesus to MATC, where she is already making a positive impact by reaching out to all stakeholders, listening to our concerns, and inviting us to collaboratively solve problems in data-driven work groups. Those of you who know me well know that I'm a passionate and outspoken Irishman who, in the words of the late Senator John Lewis, has no problem causing good trouble. So I am compelled to follow up on the passionate comments of my colleague, Dewey Caton, and impress upon you the situation many of our part-time faculty are facing. Many of them rely on the income their part-time positions provide. Many of them are now losing that income, and I cannot stop thinking about that. You see, I myself began as a part-time faculty member. And when I applied for my current position, I was a finalist with two others. The associate dean at that time said he'd have been happy with any of us, but I was lucky enough to be chosen. And my life and the life of my family has infinitely benefited from my becoming a full-time MATC employee as opposed to a part-time teacher. One of the other finalists is still a part-time teacher at MATC. The other works in another school district. And believe me when I say we've led very different lives. So the plight of part-timers is close to my heart and something I believe must be addressed. So tonight, on behalf of Vice President Dewey Caton and our part-time colleagues, we ask the following. Number one, that the provost immediately direct deans and lead faculty to split any section of 20 or more students into 2 sections, especially in math and English. If doing so will create an assignment for a part-time instructor who doesn't have an assignment. This should also lead to greater student success in these key subject areas. Second, that a work team be immediately convened and the highest priority given to it to address the extent and effect of this de facto layoff furlough work reduction, to gather accurate facts and enrollment figures and undertake appropriate actions to address and identify potential assignments for unassigned and underassigned faculty in addition to the splitting of classes. 3, that potential temporary or longer-term employment opportunities be identified and communicated to unassigned and underassigned part-time faculty, such that they can be considered for those positions when appropriate. 4, that the college timely assist part-time faculty who are pursuing unemployment compensation plans. And finally, 5, that the board please place these matters on the agenda for your February meeting, just to get an update. Thank you all for the work you do, and you can expect to get a copy of these comments as well as Dewey's in your MATC email. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Mulvena. Ms. Scholes, do we have anyone else registered at this point, or is this it?
No, we do not.
All right, thank you. Next agenda item is approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 15, 2020. Given that the board members are now scattered across 3 screens, I would appreciate it as we proceed tonight that if you either make a motion or second it, that you identify yourself so we know who has done so. So is there a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from December 15, 2020?
Carrie Phelps-Okoro, move for approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Director Phelps-Okoro. Is there a second?
Second,
Second.
Director Case.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about the minutes from December 15, 2020? All right, it's been moved by Director Phelps-Okoro and seconded by Director Case. Would all those in favor of approving the board minutes as submitted indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda items. As has been our practice recently, we have 4 reports. I would ask for a motion and a second with regard to all of them, and then I will ask if there are questions or comments about each of them. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved, Director Olson.
Thank you, Director Olson. Is there a second?
Second, Phelps-Okoro.
Thank you, Director Phelps-Okoro. We have a motion by Director Olson, a second by Director Phelps-Okoro. Is there any discussion about the December 2020 bills? Any questions or discussion about the financial report for December 2020? I'm going to ask Mr. Hollow if he has anything in particular to highlight on that report.
The one of the things that stands out significantly is the tuition. We're down like $3.1 million in tuition year to date compared to budget because of the lower FTEs. Overall revenues down close to 3.6 million compared to the same time last year. Salaries are up 1.9 million. Health insurance is down 3.3 million, primarily driven by well, the salaries are up, I should say, by, as a result of guided pathways. Health insurance is down because people cannot get to have normal procedures taken care of. So that's down quite a bit. And overall, what we refer to as discretionary spend is down $1.2 million. So year-to-date expenditures are down 2.6, but revenue is down 3.6. So we're looking at about $1 million differential there between revenue, a shortfall in revenue versus the decline in spending. So if there's
Is that year to date or is that projected?
that's year to date. That's through December 31st. 6 months.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Hollow or about the financial report in general? Any questions or comments about the human resources report? Do we have anyone that is providing a summary of that tonight or not? I don't have any.
Yes,
listed.
I am on. I'm Elle Bonds. Thank you. The brief summary of the report, it's the standard board report that is provided to the board that includes a list of hires to date in the month of January, separated by race, gender, and ethnicity. So to date, we've hired 42 new employees that break down as 10 full-time instructors, 3 part-time instructors, 29 non-instructional staff. Our hiring diversity is on the incline, which we're very happy about. We're up from December by 3%, but our average per month is over 50% in hiring diverse candidates. So we also have in that report separations from the college separated by gender and ethnicity, and then we have status changes that shows promotions and transfers separated by gender and ethnicity. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any board member questions or comments about the HR report? Any questions or comments about the procurement report? Hearing none, we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items from Dr. Olson and a second by Director Phelps-Sakura. Will all those in favor indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The resolution passes. Motion passes. Next are the board action items. The first is resolution F0165-01-21 approving the sale of $1.5 million of general obligation promissory note series 2020-2021H of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Mr. Meehan, representing Robert W. Baird, would you please tell us about the sale?
Well, thank you very much, Director Foley. If I could, we've combined the sale into one booklet. We're going to talk about the customary $1.5 million note issue that you do every month. And then we'll also talk about the taxable refunding issue, which was almost a one-off, but we took advantage of the market. So the page that you're looking at right now are the bid results for the $1.5 million note issue. And as you can see, we received 6 bidders. The winner was Raymond James, and Raymond James has at different times showed up, bid, and won. They did not bid on the last issue, but they come and go, which we're always welcome. I would say that their bid at a 0.34 continues to reflect a low interest rate environment. Last month's winner was a 0.399, so we're still in that low range, and who knows how long this will continue, but we're glad to take advantage of it. And as I mentioned, having 6 bidders is always a good thing. Next page. At the same time that we did the bid opening for the new money, $1.5 million for remodeling, we also conducted a refunding bond sale for what was the 2012 taxable general obligation refunding bonds. And the 2012 bonds are callable in 2022, but we're able, because it's a taxable issue, to conduct what they call an advance refunding. Now, you can't do that currently on tax exempt issues. That was changed in 2017. Now it may come back, but this issue is a taxable issue anyway. It was for pension purposes, funding a pension. We're pleased that we had 8 bidders show up, which is a lot. And we're looking at a transaction which was, I think it was a 12-year maturity, taxable rates at a 1.0379. So once again, whether it's a tax exempt rate like the previous $1.5 million issue or a taxable rate as this is, rates continue to be extremely low. And what we did is we actually went out to the market and offered the structure at an issue size of $6,475,000. Now, as the bids were opened and we were able to see how low the rates had come in, we were able to, with the creation of an escrow, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but the escrow cost came in significantly lower as well. We were able to reduce the issue size from what's on your agenda and what was on your draft resolutions to the amount of $6,345,000. So basically, we were able to reduce the issue size by about $130,000. We accomplished that by being able and having in the bid specs, advising all those who participated that depending on how the bids came in, we could adjust the bids at the time of the opening. So we went back to the winning bidder, BOK Financial, and worked with them as far as what the new issue size was, which of course they accepted, and are pleased that we were able to have the structure come out so nicely at a 1.03. Next page, please. What I tried to do on this page, and I appreciate it's a busy page, maybe what we could do is look under issue summary there, then I'll ask to scroll to the right. But the Series 8 issue, that's the $1.5 million issue. The date is February 10th. That's when the funds will be transferred to MATC. And the repayments are June 1st to 2020 through 25, just like your normal debt service payments are June 1st. And interest is beginning on June 1st to 2021 with June and December payments. Because of the short nature, these are non-callable. And once again, we have the AA1 confirmed, which is always good news. As I mentioned, the rate's at a 34.23, a 0.3423 with Raymond James. Now, if you could scroll just to the right side there, that's the taxable general obligation refunding issue. We're working under the same date, February 10th, only the funds will be transferred to an escrow agent. It's only for the purposes of refunding and paying off old debt. And the repayment structure is 21, because we have a payment right away this June 1st, through 2032. Basically, it's an 11-year issue. There is a call provision that says, should you wish, the last few years, maturities 30, 31, and 32 can be called at your option in the year 2029 on June 1st. I doubt you'll do that because the interest rates are at 1%, but that's an option that's there. Once again, be okay. You could slide down to the bottom of the page. Once again, the issue that we're refunding was dated October 15th of 2012. Thank you. With a maturity 23 through 32. So we're not extending the debt. The debt we're refunding, we're not extending. We're just taking away the old from those holders and putting in a new debt repayment structure. The great news is after all cost, the reduction to the debt service requirements of the district is $765,000. That's probably about twice as much as I expected going into it. And on a present value basis, because you experience it over the life of the issue, it's after all cost over $700,000 or an 11% principal savings. So all in all, $765,000 is a significant reduction to any debt issue. And I appreciate that though the overall debt levy of MATC is at 43 million. The fact that we were able to make a reduction is a good thing and a good step that we're recommending the board to consider. Next page. And this page, very similar to what you've seen on past issues. It just reflects how we're continuing to move through the process of your 2021 fiscal year borrowings. A little bit more to the right, please. And we just completed now Series H, the last orange colored. And the next issue, which would be Series I, is to be offered at February 23rd, assuming the board adopts the initial resolution later on the agenda. So we continue to be on track. The average interest rate came in at 188. Once again, this only pertains to the $1.5 million issue. And we're well within the structure to service the debt. The next page, please. Thank you. This page is really just a before and after. Once again, we had a taxable refunding issue outstanding, which was the 2012 bonds. The yellow colored box, which are the maturities on a calendar year basis, June 1, 23 through 32. We're taking those maturities away from the current holders. And then if you go to the right side, we're putting in new maturities, but still the same final payment. And as you may have noticed, those other issues were interest rates from 2.6 to 3.8%. Here, the all-in costs are at a 1.14. So on the far right side, that mustard colored area there, the savings are on an annual basis, $69,000, $71,000. It's a reduction to the debt service levy, which is a good thing. At the very back of the report, we have the Moody's credit report. There's no change in language from previous rating reports. And we did discuss this refunding with Moody's at the time of receiving the rating for the $1.5 million issue. All in all, I think both sales went very well, and we would recommend the board's adoption of the two resolutions for the sale for the Series H as well as for the refunding bonds. Director Foley, I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I'd like to limit the questions or comments at this point to the regular $1.5 million issue, if we could, because our action items are listed in a particular sequence, and that one is first. So let's see. I'd like to get back to, there we go. I lost all of you. I'd like to ask if any member of the board has a question or comment about the resolution F0165-01-21 to approve the sale that was just completed for the $1.5 million of general obligation bonds. Okay. Then could I have a motion to approve that sale and a second, please?
Director Mitchell, I motion to approve.
Thank you, Director Mitchell. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Mays, was that?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Green, would you please take the roll?
Sure. Director Hamilton? Director Mendieta Ramos?
Aye.
Director Mitchell?
Aye.
Director Mays?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Phelps-Socorro? Director Phelps-Socorro? Director Wilson? Director Case?
Hi. Can you hear me now? I don't know if this thing is working.
I can hear you, Director Wilson.
Okay.
Director Case?
Aye.
Director Foley?
Aye. Could we go back and check and see if Director Phelps-Socorro is here now? Yeah, I think she just came
Director
back.
Phelps-Socorro?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Motion to approve resolution F0165-01-21 passes. Next is resolution F0166-01-21 authorizing the issuance of another $1.5 million general obligation promissory note series 2020-2021I of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion to approve that issuance?
So moved, Director Olson.
Thank you, Director Olson.
Second, Phelps Okoro.
Thank you, Director Phelps-Coro. We have a motion and a second. Are there any, this is our ordinary, regular monthly authorization. Are there any questions or comments about this in general or for Mr. Meehan in particular? There being none, I'm sorry, who was that?
I said, no, I have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Ms. Green, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Director Mendieta Ramos,
Aye.
Director Mitchell,
Aye.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Phelps Okoro,
Aye.
Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Case, Director Case, Director Foley.
Aye. Did you ask if Mr. Hamilton, I don't know if he is here.
Director Hamilton,
Okay, and let's go back to Director Case.
Director Case.
All right, the motion passes. Next on the board action items is Resolution F0167-01-21, approving the sale of the approximately $6.5 million taxable general obligation refunding bonds of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin, which Mr. Meehan has already explained to us. Could I have a motion and a second for approval?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Director Mays. Second?
Second, Director Ramos.
I'm sorry, who, I'm sorry. Thank you, Director Mendieta Ramos.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. We've already had the explanation. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion about the $6.5 million refunding bonds? There being none, Ms. Green, would you please take the roll? We have a motion again by Director Mays and a second by Director Mendieta Ramos.
Director Mitchell,
Aye.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Phelps Okoro,
Aye.
Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Hamilton, Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
The resolution passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Meehan.
Thank you.
Next on the action items is the approval of the board self-evaluation instrument. Could I have a motion and a second, please, before we open this up for discussion?
Move adoption.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Is there a second?
Second, Director Case.
Thank you, Director Case. Any questions or comments or discussion about the board self-evaluation instrument? Again, I'm not hearing any. Going once, going twice.
I have a question, Director Foley.
Director Olson.
I just want to make sure I think I'm clear that the last time we were told that some of the questions that were on this tool were necessary either for the accreditation or something at a higher level, that's why they were specifically written as they were. Can you remind me about that again?
That's correct. Who would be the appropriate person to explain that?
I think Dr. Mannion is on this meeting, so
Yes.
if she's here,
Hi.
yes, there she is.
I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, you are correct. I think it was Director Olson. We develop them to match the Higher Learning Commission accreditation. So it was a matter of trying to be a useful tool, but also providing evidence for accreditation purposes. But then we took your suggestions and we brought it down from the 35 questions to what you see now is 20. We did the best we could trying to streamline them, make them a little bit better, but we'll continue to improve them with each iteration. So I think this version will still do what we need it to do for the HLC.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Director Olson. We have a motion to approve the board self-evaluation instrument by Director Wilson with a second by Director Case. Would all those in favor of approving the instrument, please indicate that by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? There being none, the motion passes. Next is Resolution F0168-01-21 to approve the associate degree program titled Diagnostic Medical Sonography. Again, let's begin. Is there a motion to approve?
Director Phelps-Okoro, move for approval.
Thank you, Director Phelps-Okoro. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Motion by Director Phelps-Okoro, a second by Director Wilson. Vice President Learn, Dr. Dakwar, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this?
Thank you, Director Foley. This is a new program which is designed to meet the evolving labor market needs. So we are seeking your approval for the concept review of this program. At this time, I'd like to introduce and ask Dr. Kelly Dries to introduce her team and present the concept review of this program and have any further discussions. Dr. Dries.
Good evening. As we strive to meet the workforce needs in the healthcare industry, our pathway is very excited to present to you two new programs for your consideration. This first one is the Diagnostic Medical Sonography. Many of you may know the term ultrasounds. It is an associate degree, and I'd like to introduce my colleagues, Mary Peters-Winowiak, Director of Clinical Education and Compliance, our faculty member of Cardiovascular Technology Program, Wendy Kong, and Amanda Etz, part-time instructor, Cardiovascular Technology, to tell you about this new program. Mary?
Thanks, Kelly. Good evening, district board members, MATC administration, faculty, staff, and guests. As Kelly said, my name is Mary Peters-Winowiak. I'm the Director of Clinical Education and Compliance for the Healthcare Pathway, and it's my pleasure to speak to you tonight about the exciting potential for development and implementation of a diagnostic medical sonography associate degree program at MATC. I'm joined by my faculty colleague, Wendy Kong, who is the content expert for the proposed program. So, diagnostic medical ultrasound uses high-frequency sound waves to produce images of organs, masses, fluid collections, and vascular structures within the human body. The sonographer is responsible for obtaining pertinent patient history, performing the sonographic examination, providing for the needs and comfort of the patient during that examination, and recording anatomy and pathology and other data for interpretation by the supervising physician to aid in diagnosis. Sonography is commonly used in the field of obstetrics and gynecology. So at the recommendation and approval by the Radiographic Technology Advisory Committee, along with the Healthcare Pathway Curriculum Learning and Assessment Committee, we have investigated the potential of offering the DMS program at MATC. This program is currently offered both at Black Hawk Technical College and Northeastern Wisconsin Technical College and has a state-aligned curriculum. Additionally, Kathy Lopnow, Educational Director at WTCS, has approved the investigation of the program as it is not currently offered in Southeast Wisconsin. The Bureau of Labor Statistics indicates that the projected growth in this field is 12% between the years of 2019 and 2029, and this far exceeds the national average. The Bureau reports the annual salary expectation is $74,320. However, In Milwaukee and Ozaki counties, the expected annual salary is $89,088. In a needs assessment survey with potential employers, results yielded the following. 80% are having difficulty filling these positions. 85% indicated that the associate degree was the minimum credential needed for these sonographers. 85% would also encourage current employees to participate in the program as continuing education. 87% will be willing to hire graduates of the program, and 70% indicated that DMS is an appropriate first and second credential in healthcare. Target student population would include any student interested in a healthcare profession that has a desire to enter the sonography field. Additionally, articulation into a bachelor's degree program could be arranged with our current partnerships with four-year institutions. We would work out these articulation agreements once the district board and WTCS approve the program. Potential bachelor's degrees include healthcare administration, public health, education, and sonography, just to name a few. Wendy Kong, faculty member, has been charged with guiding the development of this curriculum. Accreditation of the program would be obtained through the Commission on Accreditation of Allied Health Education Programs, or CAHEP. Students completing the program would then be able to sit for their certification exam through the American Registry for Diagnostic Medical Sonography. It is our desire that the MATC District Board submit a request to the Wisconsin Technical College System for consideration and approval of the Diagnostic Medical Sonography program. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, I actually, thank you, Chair Foley. This sounds exciting. Is there a way to do both? I'm not sure. Would they have to have a bachelor's to do a double major?
So there are a number of ways that you can do that. No, they don't have to have a bachelor's in order to be a sonographer. However, students often will try and get their bachelor's degree while enrolled in associate degree courses. It happens in lots of different programs. So the potential is there to be working on both things, but it's not required.
Anyone else? All right, I would just like to add this comment. Some of you have heard me say this before. I think it's important as we look at our programming that we encourage as many of our students as possible to go into career paths that pay at the higher end of the scale rather than larger numbers of jobs at the lower end of the scale. So I'm very pleased to hear about this and encourage you to keep looking for more. We have a motion to approve by Director Phelps-Cora and a second by Director Wilson. This is a voice vote. Would all those in favor of approving indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you, Dr. Dries.
Thank you.
Next is resolution F0169-01-21 to approve technical diploma program titled Enhanced Yoga Instructor. Again, Vice President Learn, Dr. Dackwater.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. And this is basically the same. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kelly Dries and to introduce her team to present this technical diploma program at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Dakwar. This is an enhanced yoga instructor program at the technical diploma level. I have Sandy McElnay, who is our Director of Clinical Education and Compliance, and Shayna Broadwell, our content expert, to present this program to you, which aligns with our strategic plan focusing on health and wellness and health promotion. Sandy?
Good evening, District Board members, administration. As Kelly said, my name is Sandy McElnay. I'm the Director of Clinical Education and Compliance for the Healthcare Pathway. The purpose of my attendance is to seek your approval for an Enhanced Yoga Instructor Diploma program. Also in attendance is Ms. Shayna Broadwell, Manager of Lifetime Fitness Yoga Programming and Content Expert. Ms. Broadwell will assist me in answering any questions you may have. Currently, yoga instructor training, curriculum, and credentials are overseen by the Yoga Alliance. The Yoga Alliance is a US-based nonprofit membership trade and professional organization for yoga teachers. Registered Yoga Teacher, RYT, is the credential that designates a yoga teacher who has received a certain standard of yoga teacher training and yoga teacher training and a registered yoga school. This registry is a voluntary credentialing system, not a certification program, but a listing of teachers who meet Yoga Alliance's requirements for teaching experience and have completed their training at a registered yoga school. Data shows there continues to be a significant amount of injuries related to the practice of yoga. A portion of the yoga community is working to move yoga instructor training from a voluntary registry to a required certification to increase yoga instructor accountability and safer practice. The proposed enhanced yoga instructor diploma is a step in the right direction because the enhanced curriculum will include additional course content related to anatomy, kinesiology, medical terminology, entrepreneurship, business, nutrition, and injury prevention. The diploma program will support moving yoga instruction from a job to a profession, a career. The Bureau of Labor Statistics indicates that the projected job growth for the field of yoga is above average nationally and average in the region. This data does not reflect the impact COVID-19 has had on wellness promotion services. With COVID-19 data trending toward an increase in individuals seeking more wellness services, such as yoga practice, along with physicians including yoga practice as part of their patient's treatment plan, demand for yoga professionals will likely rise. The program does not involve a large startup costs. The class can operate in a regular classroom setting, and the required equipment can be part of student fees. The long-term goal is to expand the yoga program to include community-facing services as part of a wellness center in collaboration with other health promotion programs. Your approval of this program will allow the healthcare pathway to be proactive versus reactive to the transformative changes we anticipate in healthcare and wellness promotion in the near future. Thank you for your time and consideration. If you have any questions, let us know.
Thank you, Ms. McElnay. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, there being none, we have a motion by Director Fafsa and a second by Director Wilson for approval of the resolution to approve technical diploma program titled Enhanced Yoga Instructor. Would all those in favor indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you, Dr. Bruce, again.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Foley.
Next is the policy review of policy F0900, Standard of Academic Success and Financial Aid Eligibility. This is a first read. That is Vice President and General Counsel Janice Falkenberg, and those you may call on to explain this to us are going to review the policy, and it will be brought to the February board meeting for approval. Ms. Falkenberg?
Hi, yes, thank you, Chair Foley. I would like to introduce Al Pinckney, who is our Executive Director of Financial Aid, and he will be presenting the proposed changes to this policy. Is Al available?
I believe Al is still muted.
Is someone speaking at the moment? Because I cannot hear anyone.
I do not see Al on the call, so I'm not sure if he dropped off or where he's at this point. So we may need to move forward and try to get him back on the line to present.
Okay. All right. That brings us to the chair's report. Give me just a moment to get that up here. Let's see here. All right. Can you hear me? Okay. First is that we've been having meetings with the MATC district legislators, that is state legislators. They've been taking place virtually and they will continue into February. You'll be seeing invites, if you're a board member, to these on your calendars. If you want to participate, it's important that you accept the calendar invite so we know who will or may be attending. We have to limit the number of board members on any particular call to 4, so we don't have a quorum and therefore a meeting that requires public notice and accessibility. So please look for those invites, and I think you will find that these sessions, if you haven't participated in them before, can be very informative about how our legislators think about the college and about the issues that are important to us. Some of them have run on issues that are important to us and think they are at the top of their agenda. So I think it's also good to know who is out there and supporting us. I'd encourage you to participate if you can. So far this season, we have met with Representatives Dora Drake and Deb Andraka, who are both new to the legislature, and Senator Chris Larson, who has been in the legislature and other state offices for some time. The Association of Community College Trustees National Legislative Summit will be held virtually this year on February 8th through 10th. This is the same sort of meet and speak with legislators as we just described at the state level, except that this is at the federal level. So our U.S. Congress men and women and our U.S. senators. There is still time to sign up if you want to attend. Please let Beth or Gwen know. In addition, there are going to be seminars on what to expect with the new administration, and there are meetings being scheduled with Senators Johnson and Baldwin. At this time, I'd like to discuss ideas on topics for a virtual board retreat. I've solicited topics from all of you multiple times, and I've had some ideas of my own. For those of you who are new to the board, we typically have a board retreat, an extra meeting for half a day or sometimes longer on key issues or particularly important longer term issues. There's typically been one in the fall and one in the spring. The COVID situation has kind of jostled that schedule. So we're looking at one for the spring with the date to be determined. I'd like to ask you about preferred timeframes for a virtual retreat at the end of this discussion. I've been told by other WTCS colleges that 90 minutes to 2 hours seem to be a best practice when the retreat is being held virtually. And so we can talk about all of that. But first, I'd like to propose some topics and see what your interest in these might be. We're not going to take a formal vote on this, but I'd like to get your comments. And if you have other suggestions, now would be the time to put them on the table. So the first is scenario planning for a post-COVID future, looking at trends in higher education, what other people are doing, thinking about, and what we are doing and thinking about what we should be doing. The second is facilities planning for the future. That may be closely related to the first point. We are in an era where obviously the traditional paradigm of big buildings with lots of classrooms may have to be reconsidered. The third is the moonshot for equity, achieving the dream, guided pathways, understanding how these initiatives align and how they will move the college forward. It's a deeper dive into efforts to increase student success and completion rates. Again, those of you who are new to the board probably heard a lot in early conversations about how we had spent 3 years getting ready to implement guided pathways with all of its attributes. And this was supposed to be the year that we expanded it beyond limited portions of the curriculum to the entire school. And I think it's fair to say that we are trying to implement these things as well as possible, but it's not what I was expecting this year. I'm sure you were all expecting what happened because you're much more prescient than I am. But it's been hard to see how these things are actually playing out. So the 4 topics I've got on my list are planning for a post-COVID future, facilities planning for the future, better understanding our programming and our approaches that are intended to increase student success and completion rates. Let's see, first of all, does anyone have any other topics they would like to add to the list for consideration?
Actually, I don't, a topic I'd like to hear a little about, it could just be an update on how the impact of the elections will affect not just our college, but all technical colleges.
Okay. Anything else? All right, any thoughts about planning for a future, for a post-COVID future as a topic? People think that's a good one. We think that will be old news by then. You'd rather hear about how to grow plant walls like the one behind me, whatever.
My only concern about it is that it changes every 15 minutes. And by the time we get to what we think it is subject to be, we all gonna go home and never come out again, and maybe we gonna all stay out and never go in. It just changes a lot. So, I mean, and you have a better idea of how you would want to look at that than I do, but that's my.
Okay. Other comments on that particular idea?
Mark, is this, since I'm new to the board, is this just one meeting just for 45 minutes, 2 hours? And then will we review this again in the fall, or how does?
Well, in the past, my experience has been that the topics we dealt with were major topics that required a deep dive and probably were not going to be resolved. Well, they wouldn't be resolved at the meeting, but the meeting would be an important part of bringing the board along with the thinking, the administrators, and sometimes outsiders. So we had a retreat that dealt with the compensation system. We had a retreat that dealt with the guided pathways program before we formally adopted it. There have been quite a few others, but usually topics of that magnitude. So it's not a one-shot thing. It's really the start of a thought process or a development process. Dr. Martin?
Yeah, so Chair Foley, thanks a lot. We are, as an administrative team, my cabinet are working on this exactly right now. So we have put together the trends. We're working on our new scenario. It'd be great to have board input if that's what you choose to do as we move forward. We're hoping to have it completed by March, and it'd be great to get input. So that's absolutely a possibility.
Any other questions or comments about that particular topic? I can't see hands, so speak up if you want to say something. Okay, how about facilities planning? I think we are actually going to have a conversation about that later today. Is that right? Vice President Falkenberg, is that you? Yes. Yes?
No, we won't be having anything this month. We are in the process of doing a lot of work around that plan and anticipate we'd be bringing something back to the board. And if there's a desire to have some retreat on that to get the board's input, we would certainly welcome that.
Okay.
Probably
Yeah,
around
I
May
think
or June. Yeah.
Yeah, the information was probably be ready to do that in June.
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies. The presentation we had at the last board meeting, or perhaps 2 board meetings ago, was not the kind of discussion that I'm hoping to have about this. I'm looking at far more fundamental questions of do we need as many buildings? Do we need the same configuration of buildings that we thought we did a year ago, or even 6 months ago, based on what's happening? Have we reached the end of the useful life of some of our buildings? Do we need to replace them? I think we have a lease that's expiring. Should we be doing something other than leasing space? Is that the level at which you're planning to present information in June?
A lot of that information will be contingent upon getting our academic plan and strategic enrollment plan developed, and we're in the process of doing that now, because that will really dictate the future of what our infrastructure needs to be to support the type of programming and curriculum we're going to be offering as an institution. So I expect that at the end of this, we will be able to get down into that level of detail. We are just not there yet.
Okay. It may be premature to have this as a board retreat this spring then. Anyone else have comments or thoughts about that topic?
I actually have a question. Did you say this board retreat was only going to be 2 hours?
Yes, what we're talking about is how to have a valuable retreat without exhausting the board members or putting anybody to sleep. I think the 2 hours is really dictated by the fact that it's almost certainly going to be on a Zoom conference. Doesn't mean we can only do one, however, we could.
Well, I don't know how we can do one in that length of time.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Director Wilson, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, I don't know how we can do one in that length of time, but I don't know. It just seems like a couple of these are very extensive and you're talking 2 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we try to do all 3 of these or 4 of these in 2 hours. I don't think that's realistic. I really like the board's input on what you see as the most important topic here, or others that you may have, to spend time doing a deep dive on, deeper than we can do in a typical board meeting. But no, we couldn't possibly do all of these in one 90-minute to 120-minute meeting.
I guess I was talking about, I don't see how we can do a 1 in 2 hours. I know we couldn't do any more than that. And when you say deep dive, your deep dive may be different than mine.
Well, maybe then once we've identified the topic, we should look at having multiple 90-minute to 2-hour meetings, depending on how many we need to go into the topic. That makes sense to me. What about the Moonshot for Equity, Achieving the Degree Guided Pathways initiatives concept? Any comments or thoughts about that?
I think that's a good topic also to have.
Okay. How about our 2 new board members? Is there something that you would most like to hear about in some detail? Director Mitchell, anything?
Yeah, Director Foley, I just want to, I guess, reaffirm what you were saying earlier about facility planning with the new environment that we are facing. And I think that is critical to a deep dive and something that we definitely have to explore.
Okay. Director Mays, for some reason, you just disappeared from my screen. I was going to see if you had anything to say. There you are.
No, I'm sorry. I keep my internet access. I think it's just probably I'm having Wi-Fi issues. I'm going in and out like every 15 minutes.
Any comments about any of this? Any thoughts?
No, I was just thinking about more or less the scenario planning post-COVID, but I think like Director Wilson stated, it changes constantly. That was something that I think I would be more familiar with.
Okay, any other topics the board wants to put on the table?
Mark, what was the third one that you said about understanding? There was one you missed in there, understanding.
Yeah, the third one was understanding how the Moonshot for Equity, Achieving the Dream, and Guided Pathways initiatives align and how they will be used to improve student success and completion rates.
I thought there was another topic in there that you said between facilities and that one.
Nope, I had COVID facilities planning, Moonshot for Equity. Was there another topic that somebody else proposed? I didn't take that note.
I think it was the impact of the election was.
Oh, yes,
recommended.
Director Wilson's impact of the elections. Yeah. I suspect we will continue to get monthly reports from Rami Zelenkova and others about what's happening at that level. So I hear a consensus on having a meeting on the facilities planning issue, including what impacts the post-COVID environment might have on that, but probably not until June or even into the next board year. Let's see.
Mark,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, like, as a board member, trying to understand those really big issues. And sometimes I feel like in order to help, I don't know that I have a deep enough understanding, but I don't want to go so deep that it's more operational rather than a governance level. But I sometimes am, trying to understand as we're looking at the gaps of completion rate and some of the barriers that get in the way. Like, I'm not sure that I understand that enough and how we can improve that. Like, I know we're having navigators and all of the part as the guided pathways. And I know that, Carrie has brought it up at different times about some of whether it's recruitment and that. And I feel like, we hear a report at the board meeting, but I don't know that I understand it enough to try to, and it's not just the K-12 piece of it. I mean, I'm trying to understand that piece of it, like following somebody through the system and really understanding it, because I feel there's a lot of different places in which we can lose people or how to have people understand such a large organization. And, if we're trying to get them from all the way to identifying them to a successful completion, there are times about that I feel like I'm getting snippets of it, but not really understanding it. And I don't know how to articulate that well enough to be a topic, but I feel like I can't always contribute. Like, I feel like at the board meetings, we're getting just little snapshots of parts of that. And I guess I don't always understand from beginning to end to know like where that fits in it. And so I don't know how to put that together, but we're asked to do elements like, approve different programs at certain levels or, do this part or that part. And sometimes that whole piece of it, I'm missing that whole connection from beginning to end on that a little bit. So I don't know, maybe that's just me and I can take care of that offline, but I'm trying to understand, all the work that we do, whether it could be facilities, but like, I feel like I would need to know more about what we're trying to accomplish with some of those things, whether facilities are or aren't part of that.
So let me reflect this back and see if I'm understanding it. You'd like something that talks about, at least at some level, all of the programming that we have in place to reach down into high schools for dual credit and even into the middle school, as I know Dr. Martin's going to talk about some of the things we've been doing there in her report to us later tonight, all the way through recruitment, career counseling, completion, retention, success, what that whole path looks like, what that whole guided pathway, to quote a term, looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be a stronger advocate, you know, in the communities when people talk about it, because when they say, hey, you're on the board, like, I feel like I don't understand, like, I talk very narrowly on the things that I know about, but I'm not able to really articulate all of the programming and options that are available in, you know, to community members, not even necessarily from that. So yeah, I guess. I mean, I get the guided pathways piece of it, but I feel like there's so much more and other pieces of it that I am not really doing it the justice that I could be doing it if I were to be able to understand it a little bit better.
Okay, good comments. Anyone else?
Yeah, you know, now that I hear this, I'm kind of leaning toward Director Olson, or an option of having 2 sessions, because usually our board retreats are 4 hours at the minimum. So, because I too, one of the things I want to know is the support in this kind of atmosphere we are providing for our students, because that was one of the major pieces to it. So if there were a way, I would like, matter of fact, I think I'd like to do that first, or at least have plans to do 2 hours 1 month and 2 hours the next month, if people can do that.
Okay, I will work with Dr. Martin to put together a proposal for what we'll do, and we'll get that off to everyone before the next board meeting, and we can decide on the topic and timing as well. All right. That's the end of the chair's report for the night. Next on the agenda is the District Student Senate report. I believe Mr. Jans is going to introduce, let's see, Fong Wen, is that right?
Yes,
Jans.
Fong Nguyen. Should I mention first, did you skip the president's report?
Oh.
No problem. I was actually going to ask Chair Foley if you wanted. I see that our Executive Director for Financial Aid, Al Pinkney, is here. If we wanted to go back to the policy review before I gave my report.
That's right. I've gotten off the agenda here. So, yes, let's get back on the agenda and finish the item. So, let's see, Janice, do you want to pick up the introduction on the policy review, and then we'll go back to the schedule as it's written?
Sure. I know Executive Director of Financial Aid, Al Pinkney, is on the line now. So we can go ahead and share his PowerPoint, and he'll walk us through the proposed changes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Chairperson Foley, I do apologize if I had to step away for a second, but tonight I wanted to share with you some major upcoming changes that the Department of Ed has made in relationship to financial aid satisfactory academic progress for our students. And it requires that we take a look at our current board policy. So kind of diving right into it. The first thing is I want to say that the institution must establish a reasonable, satisfactory academic progress policy for determining whether an otherwise eligible student is making satisfactory academic progress in his or her educational program. And that's the citation that the Department of Ed has given us. So within that, we went through our policy and we had to look at some of the changes to be made. Next slide, please. And there are some policies that are standard that we have now, like the GPA and how our students are categorized as far as being full-time, half-time, and then the amount of time that we evaluate our students each year, which is 3 times a year after every semester. Some of the significant changes that's related to the policy, we talk about the effects of the I grades that we had in our policy. Last year we introduced no pass, low pass grades. Those attempted credits now affect the students' attempted credits as relates to the PACE. And then we also have provisions for warning that we're going to talk about in a second. The policy has to be student-centered, student-focused, and that's in line with trying to make the process of appealing more streamlined when a student has to file a financial appeal. There's some language regarding how does a student get their financial aid eligibility reinstated, and we have a real robust way for students to do that, and we'll talk about that in a second. A student has to be notified what to do specifically about if they went from being eligible for financial aid to regaining the eligibility. It has to be clearly outlined on how that process is going to work, so we're working on that. And then they also recommended that a student has an academic plan if they went from being ineligible for financial aid, coming back and being reinstated. It clearly needs to be demonstrated how they're going to regain their eligibility. Next slide, please. One of the things we currently don't do is for students who are on financial aid warning, we don't have an interface between student being on warning and going on probation. One of the recommendations that the department is making is why not talk to the student earlier for some type of intervention. So this will be an optional plan that the college will be talking about as far as when do we integrate support services with the students? Is it now or do we wait till later? The plan is to really talk about this now because we want to catch them early to make sure that we keep them on the path to success. Next slide, please. What is our plan going forward? We're going to develop a cross-functional task force that will look at, we'll have voices from all across the institution, which will include pillars from inner, stay, and the learn. We're going to have a robust changes to our academic plan, which is going to include the areas in advising, student services, and other workshops and those other wraparound services, we call them, that the student will have mandatory that will be part of the reinstatement. The plan is going to say that if you are ineligible for financial aid or if you were deemed ineligible after one of the evaluation periods, in order for you to regain your eligibility, the academic plan is a must piece of that. So the student really needs to be educated on what that plan is going to look like and how it's going to help them get back to making satisfactory progress. And then the other thing we are going to talk about again is just how do we integrate in warning status, helping students progress to that next level satisfactorily. Next slide, please. The tools that we're going to use to help us do that is that we just talked about the new or improved plan that you'll be looking at to revise the current plan that we have now, and it will be more cross-functional. The thing to remember is that our satisfactory academic progress for financial aid, this is an institutional responsibility. It's just not just based on one area of the financial aid office, but it's kind of a family, if you want to put it like this, a family effort that we're all going to do together. EAB Navigate is going to be another tool that we're going to use to help us moonshot to the next level with this. And again, cross-functional across the college. It'll be easy for us to keep in communications with students and keep track of that communications to make sure we all are on the same page. And then with the Student Success Task Force that's being newly developed, they will be kind of the overseer of how this policy will be implemented and making sure that students are on the right track of things that we need to do. We're hoping that this is really going to set the tone for how things are going to be done in the future with our students. So with that, any questions?
Anyone have any? I'm sorry, did somebody start talking? I thought I heard someone, but I don't see who it is. No. Okay. All right, this will be up for approval at the next board meeting. Give it another look, please, everyone, and see if you have any questions before then. And thank you, Al, for that information. And thank you, Jeff. All right, so now we're ready for the president's report.
All right, well, good evening, everyone, board members, staff, faculty, students, and our MATC community. On January 13th, I was invited to present to the Achieving the Dream 2020 President's Cohort on the topic of student success in a crisis. I had the opportunity to highlight the work of our scenario planning and our integration team model that we use to address the issues surrounding our pandemic's effect on our students in the college. I want to thank Dr. Christine Mannion and Janice Falkenberg for all their efforts on these initiatives. On January 15th, Dr. Nadine Gonzalez de Jesus attended the virtual graduation for our Department of Correction, and she really helped me by standing in for me. This ceremony included Governor Evers for our 7 students who graduated from our Second Chance Pell program. They achieved grade point averages that average higher than 3.0 for 2 straight years. I'd like to thank our Dean, Dr. Sadiq Hisahaku, and his team for their efforts in this initiative. Also on January 15th, we held our Faculty Coordination Day and welcomed back our faculty to the spring semester. We continued with having most of our courses, about 75%, continue to be conducted online for the spring semester, which came in really handy today since our buildings were closed as a snow day, but we were able to carry on most of our instruction and our services and continued our business as usual. The college has expanded its on-site COVID-19 testing to all employees and students. Testing is available at our Oak Creek campus and our downtown campus. The college is working with local health officials to facilitate access to the COVID-19 vaccine as well. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Martin on her report? Okay, not hearing any. Last chance, anybody? All right, thank you, Dr. Martin. Next, let's move on to the District Student Senate report. Mr. Jans.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Fong Nagayan, who is the SGA president from the West Dallas campus. Fong?
Hi everyone, my name is Fong Wing, and I am the president of Student Government of the West Dallas campus, and I am here to represent your student report.
Go ahead.
So thank you everyone for having me in this meeting. It's a very delightful meeting that I had to see how to run the meeting and just to see how our MATC going. And thank you, Dr. Vicky Martin and administration. And I'm happy to be here today and represent district student government and the student body. Since the last board meeting, the district student government had met during January to prepare for the spring semester. The district student government is looking forward to continuing our effort from the fall semester and expanding our work. One expansion from our past meeting is creation of a graduation speaker task force to develop ways to have a student voice in the selection of a graduation speaker selection. As a student worker in a student life, I'm looking forward to assist with even more event this spring semester, online of course. Currently, I'm working on event related to inclusion of students from different walk of life, and I am excited to see how this impact our students. I also want to thank the dedicated MATC faculty and staff for all the work they have done in this pandemic. I believe that MATC have done a good job compared to other college I have seen and review. And I look forward to engage more with students we represent this semester. Thank you for the time and to provide this report today.
Thank you, Fong.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the Milwaukee PBS General Manager's report. Mr. Zachary.
Good afternoon, Chair Foley, board members, Dr. Martin, faculty, staff, students. I'd like to begin with good news about Milwaukee PBS's revenues. During the month of December, the station raised a record $1 million amount. That makes us confident we will achieve the $5.2 million goal in FY21, and we hope to actually do even better than that. Our next fundraising drive starts in March. We're delighted to welcome a new employee to Milwaukee PBS, MATC, in Southeast Wisconsin itself. Mariano Avila has joined us as a bilingual multimedia producer and reporter. Mariano was most recently inclusion reporter at WGVU, the PBS television station and NPR radio station in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Welcome, Mariano. Turning to tomorrow night, a big event for us. Milwaukee PBS is producing a very special edition of Black Nouveau. Understanding Implicit Bias will be hosted by Earl Arms, and the interactive workshop will be moderated by Kima Hamilton and Dasha Kelly Hamilton. As of this afternoon, we're tracking nearly 500 RSVPs for this event, which will take place virtually. I'd like to invite Black Nouveau executive producer Everett Marshburn, who's with us today, to tell you more, and he'll also share a promotional spot that we've been running on air. Everett? Everett, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Welcome.
good, thank you. Good evening. The 90-minute special is a modified version of the workshop that Kima and Dasha Kelly Hamilton do across the country. The hundreds of people who've signed up so far represent the spectrum of people that we serve. I'd like to show you the promo. Can we do that now, please? Start the slide.
The toughest part about tough conversations is the tough part, not the conversations.
No, the conversations is what's needed to get us through. The learning, the listening, the leaning in, that's what gets us through together.
And together is the key word where we're able to actually fall into conversations. So that's my favorite part about the training we do for implicit bias, where we're talking with people and not teaching at them.
Join us for a special webinar, Understanding Implicit Bias, January 27th. It is free and open to the public. Details available at milwaukeepbs.org.
Okay, and the webinar is a part of a continuing relationship with Dasha, and we're going to be doing some other things with them in the future. I need to talk a little bit about Listen MKE, which is also a partnership that we have with the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, WUWM, and the Milwaukee Public Library. It's been an ongoing project since the summer, and we've covered a variety of subjects, including the unrest in Kenosha, and most recently we did a program on COVID conversations in the community. So we're working within the community to look at issues that are important to all of us.
Thank you, Everett. You've been doing a fantastic job, and I'm so proud of the work you've done. I now want to, by the way, to anybody who we're happy to resend an invite to you if you'd like to sign up for tomorrow night's live event. If you can't join us tomorrow, it's a 90-minute event from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We will be broadcasting the special on Thursday, February 11th, and we'll get information to you about that as well. I now want to turn to the vaccine, a Milwaukee PBS special. It's a critical issue impacting residents of Southeast Wisconsin. Milwaukee PBS will present an hour-long live special next week, February 4th, on the rollout of the vaccine. Our program will combine the talents and resources of our news and public affairs shows, Black Nouveau, Adelante, and 1036. Here to talk about the program are Marianne Lazarski, who is producer of 1036, Patricia Gomez, the host and producer of Adelante, and Everett Marshburn, the producer of Black Nouveau. I'll ask Marianne to first provide an overview, and then ask Patricia and Everett to offer more details about the project. Marianne?
Thank you, Bodan, and good evening, Dr. Martin, Chairman Foley, and the MATC board. Our special is going to be a comprehensive 1-hour program with the very latest information on the vaccine. I know it's been brought up during this meeting on how quickly things are changing. So we're trying to keep up, but we are very confident that we're going to present the latest information, what it is, what's in it, what the process looks like when you're getting the vaccine, how the distribution process is going moving forward, and the challenges that we still face. We're going to be bringing our 3 local news and public affairs shows together, as Bodan mentioned, to help provide information to our viewers, and especially to those communities who've been most impacted by the virus, our Hispanic, Black, and Native American communities. As you know, there's still a lot of concern about the vaccine. Many are still wondering if they should even get it. And Milwaukee PBS is going to be able to take the time to really focus in on this important area of concern for so many. Our guests will include Mark Johnson. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning health reporter for our partners at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Dr. Pat McManus from the Black Health Coalition, and Dr. Jorge Ramallo from the 16th Street Clinic. So we're hoping that we will be able to address many of the myths that are out there and concerns, and really help our viewers understand the vaccine and what's going on and what they need to do. And we're hoping that someone from the state will also join us as well. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Patricia Gomez.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you all for this opportunity. For this special on COVID-19 vaccines, Adelante's team is presenting Dr. Jorge Ramallo from the 16th Street Clinic. He has reported in this, his latest participation in Adelante, that there is a great health disparity in terms of the community's needs. And that even though people are working, sometimes they are not getting enough to support their savings. And when a person gets sick, that's when we see that the Latino community is very affected, very rapidly and disproportionately compared with the rest of the city. During his participation in Adelante, Dr. Ramallo also talked about many barriers that Latinos are facing. His organization is the largest health community base in Wisconsin. It has been chosen to distribute the vaccines. However, at the beginning, it did not have the equipment required to keep vaccines at the temperatures needed. For this February 4th special on vaccines, we are looking forward to ask Dr. Ramallo about the importance of Latinos understanding the benefits of vaccines. On these times when most hospitals are not allowing the media to obtain footage, we were able to obtain B-roll of Dr. Ramallo being vaccinated. It is crucial to present role models like him for the community to break barriers. Dr. Ramallo has also talked about what is happening in cities like LA, where Latinos are registering more than 40% of death by COVID-19. Thank you all for your time. I'm now going to turn back to my colleague, Everett Marstrom.
Thank you, Patricia. For Black Nouveau, our recent Pew Research Center study said that the public is 62% in favor of the new vaccine. For African Americans, it's 42%. And there are a number of reasons for that. We're going to talk to people in our community, one who's going to be vaccinated, and one who has some trepidation about that. We're going to find out why. We're also going to talk to James Causey, who recently had a bout with COVID-19. We're going to talk to him about his after effects. So I think all of this will make for an interesting hour of television. Bodan?
Thank you so much to all three of you. Mike, you can stop the PowerPoint, because I would like to have something happen since this is such a wonderful thing that happened right before we came onto this board meeting. And I don't know whether my friends know about this yet or not, but just as we were coming to this meeting, I don't know if this shows up or not, but this is a text I received. Milwaukee PBS, for work with Black Navone, Adelante, and 1036, and our other programs, Just was awarded the 52nd Annual Public Media Awards for overall excellence in content. So this is the work that we do. I'm so proud of everybody at Milwaukee PBS. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Congratulations, everybody.
Absolutely, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Milwaukee PBS continues to win awards every year, every season. It's really quite amazing, quite wonderful. Thank you for that. Next is the Legislative Matters Report. Janice Falkenberg, and will Ramey be with us tonight as well?
Yes, I believe Ramey is on the line, and we have shared the report with the board. So I will turn it over to Ramey Zelenkova.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. A couple of highlights. Many are actually in progress at this time as the Senate and Assembly are on the floor here today in Madison. I first want to start though with some federal updates. I know several board members have wanted to, be apprised of what's happening now with the new administration coming in. These are going to be relatively general updates, but we will certainly provide more specific information as we become aware of it and learn more. So a couple of updates there. As we know, the Senate is going to be evenly split among Democrats and Republicans, and so Vice President Harris will serve as the tie-breaking vote. So Democrats will control Congress in addition to President Biden now coming in, and he has already moved forward on a number of initiatives. First, many of you may already know, but he has already sent a proposal to Congress to look at immigration reform, which would be specific to a pathway for citizenship for individuals who are here in the country now over the course of a number of years. Prior to the Biden administration, Congress had passed and President Trump had signed into law additional funding specified for the higher education emergency relief funds. And so that was just over $20 billion. So we will be expecting to receive some of those funds. As I understand, unless something's changed, I think some of that guidance is still being developed, but those dollars are expected to come into Wisconsin. And they are earmarked for a number of potential uses, including technology costs and student emergency grants as some examples. The President Biden's also unveiled a new COVID relief package. It includes additional dollars for higher education. I've outlined those in the report today. I will not go over the specifics. Again, we'll provide more detail as they become available and as everything moves through the process. So moving into the state specific update, you heard this evening from Director Foley that we have been meeting with legislators specific to our budget requests, both as a technical college system, but also highlighting some of the needs specific to Milwaukee Area Technical College. As I indicated, the legislature is in session. The Senate and Assembly are on the floor today. They are debating a COVID relief bill, as well as a new mask mandate that the governors announced earlier this month. Again, both of those items are pending as action is occurring right now. The COVID relief bill, Assembly Bill 1, there's not a lot of specific information relevant to technical college specifically. It's more broad as it relates to healthcare provisions, some liability protections tied to COVID, et cetera. And then I just want to highlight last really quickly, I've presented before, Governor Evers will unveil his budget recommendation next month on February 16th. We've discussed some of these provisions that are specific to technical colleges that the system is requesting, additional grants for district boards to provide academic support for adult basic education, really looking at those adults who maybe have been impacted by COVID in certain industries, trying to do some upskilling there, but while at the same time, helping them get into fields that are of urgent need right now as a result of COVID. So there's a budget request of $24 million to support that initiative. Also a budget request specific to increasing Wisconsin grants. So technical college students are eligible for more money and expanding that pool to a degree as well. During our meetings with legislators, we've highlighted both of these specifically, and also we've talked about childcare needs and broadband needs. Governor Evers, in his State of the State, did highlight his desire to move forward with a rather large budget request specific to broadband. So we're waiting to see those details, but we've certainly stressed the need specific to broadband for our students as well. And just very quickly, lastly, revenue projections came out just within the half an hour. The state revenue projections are in pretty good shape. The Legislative Fiscal Bureau, which is a nonpartisan service agency, is projecting a gross balance of closer to $2 billion by the end of the current fiscal year, which ends on June 30th. And we also see our rainy day fund increase as a result, getting closer to $1 billion. So we are in a much better budget picture than I think we thought we would be, last spring, for example. So I ran through many of these very quickly. I'm happy to take any questions, but again, a lot of moving pieces here, and we will just continue to update the board as we learn more. Thank you.
Remy. Any questions for Remy? Seeing and hearing none, thank you very much for the update. Are you actually at the Capitol tonight?
Well, yes, I'm right around the corner. I live next door, and my office is right next door. So the Capitol is open when a public hearing is happening or when they're on the floor. So I will be back there. The Senate was temporarily in recess, but they are back now.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is board monitoring, the enrollment report, which I understand is going to be given by Jeff Jans tonight.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Chair Foley and board members. My name is Jeff Jans. I'm the Vice President of Retention and Completion, and I'm very happy to provide you this report. I'm going to try to be as succinct as I can. I've got 3 slides, and each of the slides represents a section that makes sense in putting the total picture together. The first one is going to be talking about some national trends that are relevant to our numbers and our FTE. These come from the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center, which is the primary source of true data and accurate data to compare to. Some data also comes from Fafsa Tracker for 2020. This data actually came very close to the end of the calendar year, December 25th, 2020. These are the points of reference that I wanted to point out. First, overall community colleges enrollment fell nationwide, rural, urban, small, large, by 13.1% from 19 to 20. The first-time enrollment of students fell more than that by 21%, and the students of color enrollment fell by 28% nationwide. Now those are kind of benchmark indicators from this year, this fiscal year. The next set from FAFSA provides us with kind of a snapshot on what's going on potentially this year, but also for the next fiscal year. FAFSA, as you may know, is the information that students need to fill out in order to be eligible for financial aid. FAFSA completion for 2021, as of December 25th of 2020, had fallen by 12.3% nationwide. Unfortunately, the reduction was even higher in Wisconsin, 14.5%. And then 2 items of real significance to us, I believe, are that those students who attend title eligible high schools completed FAFSA 7% lower than their counterparts thus far. And students attending high minority high schools completed the FAFSA 12.1% less than their counterparts. All of which gives us a kind of point of reference on looking at our numbers and our fiscal year, our FTE, why we are where we are. If we can take the next slide, please. Thank you. The one thing that is not accurate on this slide, if you see January 19th there below the line, those were my initial numbers and I was able to update them. So these are actually numbers from yesterday, January 25th. Simply put, we have an FTE target budget goal for this fiscal year of 9,100. That's broken down in this first column of numbers to show the summer target, the fall target, and the spring target. In the summer, you may recall we exceeded our our goal and hit 104% of the plan. And in the fall, we were down by 92% at 3,978. The spring year to date, as we speak, is 3,205. What's important to point out is that this is still a moving target. We still are taking applications very near the end of the spring applications right now, but we still have 12-week courses to start in about 2 or 3 weeks and second 8-week courses that will add to this number. Where we are in our year to date right now compared to our end of year goal is 86.8%, or 1,198 FTEs below the targeted goal. As we project forward to the end of the fiscal year, the early projection is in the neighborhood of 89 to 90%. And could I take the next slide, please? This last slide answers the question, so what are we doing about it? This has been a moving activity. It is not the job of enrollment management people, but really the entire college to do what we can to enhance our recruitment, our retention, and our success of our students. So I'm just going to run down an example of the kind of marketing and retention efforts that we've been doing this year. Starting with target marketing, we've been doing significant amounts of paid social ads. We have the second bullet is probably one of the more significant additions we've made, which has been getting very nice reviews from our students and from our staff alike. We've added online Zoom service with individual rooms for each student-facing service that we have. It's very easy to access at matc.edu/gethelp. A student will simply go in there and click on the service they need, whether it's a pathway or an application or financial aid, and they go right to that location, and that is stationed. There are people, whether they're at home or on campus, they're staying there to assist from 8 to 6 Monday through Thursday and 8 to 4 on Friday. We've also added a online student technology assistance location as we are getting more and more requests for information to assist with technology and the virtual courses. We've added a artificial intelligence that's called StormerBot. Basically, it's a voice assist process that learns as it gets more answers, which is helping quite a bit with the call center and other services we're providing. Also of real significance is that we have, from November to this coming Saturday, added 28 virtual STORM events. That's our orientation activity that spans all kinds of important information from how to register to financial aid to safety and security and others. At this point, we've had 483 people register out of that process out of 680 attending, or a 71% return rate in getting people to take part. Now, what we also do is we directly follow up with those students who either were invited to a STORM event and didn't attend, or they attended a STORM event and didn't register. So we're continuing to stay on those students so we make sure we get the maximum possible. As I mentioned earlier, we are also going to be having 8-week and 12-week class enrollment to add to our FTE. We have a committee that's working on removing registration blocks where possible and perhaps obsolete because of a prerequisite that may have been changed or something to that effect. We continue to distribute Chromebooks and hotspots for students, and that's been widely popular, and we've gotten also a lot of very positive feedback on how that has helped our students. In spite of our nearly 100% virtual student support in student-facing services, we've maintained open computer labs, libraries, childcare centers, food service centers on the campuses face-to-face for students who are, in particular, taking face-to-face classes. The pathway offices are in their first full year of operation, and a combination of liaisons, advisors, and coaches are reaching out, whether it be from email processes or phone calls, or we have a new peer-to-peer texting system called Remind that could really change and improve the way that we communicate with our students. The faculty-student communications continue. This was particularly important when we were encouraging students to register and apply for second semester. Faculty members in classes were encouraging that registration. And then outreach to students at risk. We have coaches and advisors and others who are getting listings of people who have either been suspended or they've dropped out before the end of the term, and we're following up and reaching out to see if we can help in any way. So that is the end of my report. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Let me open it up to questions to the board members. Any questions? Mr. Jans?
Yes, I actually have one, and I was trying to type and send something. I'd like to have a conversation with you about the outreach to those who I guess we're calling at risk.
Yeah, be happy to.
Anything you'd like to talk about that now, so we all have the benefit of it, Dr. Wilson? What are you saying, or what do you think we should be doing that we haven't heard about here?
Yes, well, one of the things I'm just wondering is, do we have enough people? And to maybe, I was looking at, I don't have it, just came to my mind, like something like the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, where there may be people, community people, other people who would be able to kind of tag team with them to give them encouragement, if nothing else, because these times are trying enough. I've talked to several people, when you have children and trying to deal with all these things, and then some people just don't like to talk to everybody. I was just wondering, is that something we could be interested in? But I was kind of wanted to run it by you first.
Well, I think it'd be a great idea. I'll give you another example. We've got a group that's just starting called Pipeline Partnerships with various agencies in town and MPS, and Marquette has a reciprocity agreement with us with some high schools to start here and they end up there. But Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Milwaukee is a great example. We are a significant pipeline for them, and I'm in regular conversations with lead folks at Boys and Girls Clubs. But I would welcome a conversation with you to talk about other ideas.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Anyone else on the board have any questions? Can we go back to your slides for a moment? I'm not seeing them now, so I don't know if
Mike might have taken them down.
I'd like to go back to the first one. Okay. So first of all, I want to make sure we all understand these numbers. Fall 2020 means fall of the 2019-2020 fiscal year, or does it actually mean calendar fall 2020?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's fall 2020. This is a comparison, for example, the 28% number for students of color enrolled was a comparison of fall 2020 this year to fall 19. So we fell.
Fall 2021 is projecting what this is what the FAFSA completion rates tell us is happening with regard to enrollments in fall 2021.
Well, actually, in the first three bullets under fall 2020 is the data of actual reductions this fall from fall of 19. The next set is more recent information just this past Christmas about the FAFSA completion for next year.
Okay, and is there a deadline by which FAFSA has to be completed, or can we still attempt to rally the troops and improve this?
Oh yeah, FAFSA continues. I can say that because my son hasn't finished his as a freshman. That's ongoing. The timestamp is really the significance. What was 1225 like this year compared to last year, and it was sharply reduced, and we know why. I mean, it's a significant variable of the uncertainty of what's going to happen in higher education. And this is, by the way, all higher education, not just students looking at community colleges.
I guess I don't understand the logic from the student's perspective of why they wouldn't be completing these applications now for the fall. We've got remote online. Maybe they're not interested in that. Maybe it doesn't work for them. But we've got vaccines in the pipeline. They're talking about 80% vaccination rates by the fall. What is driving this reduction, if you know?
Well, that's a very good question. I think we've got a real brain trust on this call, but I'd say in many ways the uncertainty of life that's gone on over the last year. I go back to my own experience of an unfortunate 2020 high school grad in my own house. The high school year was challenging. The freshman year the first semester was challenging. And I think people are giving serious stock in, is this what I want to do? Or at least what are my other options? And so I think something like FAFSA is just information. It's not saying something definite. It gives us pause to consider. But the reality is they know they have time, and they may be using the spring semester to see what happens with the vaccination, for example.
Question when you get through.
Go ahead, Director.
Maybe there's a bit of not understanding. How do we get this if an individual was not clear on how this whole process worked, what would we do? Have them call somebody? Do we have a way to put this up on the website to make sure that people, because the uncertainty, and even before this pandemic, this was always a problem. Not to this degree, but this has been a problem. And a number of the young people that I work with and talk to, they understand it sometimes better than their parents do.
Yeah.
And a number of them come from one-parent families, and mom is trying to do 150,000 things at one time. So I don't know, maybe we need to look at, is there some way we could get some more info or something out, because this is quite a bit, and especially at your minority high schools, the completion, we got to come up with something.
I agree, and that's why we came up with this idea of a pipeline partnership. We can get assistance from a lot of the community leaders and organizations that are serving many of the students who would be eligible to come to MATC. At least that's a percentage number, plus our own marketing, plus any contact we can make to high schools directly. So, and I think our MCube organization is a nice example of that. We can stay in close contact with members of the staff and faculty at MATC, MPS schools. But I think we can get a lot of partnerships helping get the word out on this.
If I may jump in, I am Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus, EVP for Student Success at MATC. I wanted to say that there are specific ways in which we are attempting to do the outreach so that we can best inform our students and their parents about how to apply for financial aid. What is the process? What does it take exactly in order for them to be able to apply for aid? And those are the types of questions that we are attempting to answer through workshops online. At this point, we're coming up with a calendar of activities and events that we would like to conduct so that we can have our workshops online. We would like for them to be accessible, also in person. If we follow our COVID-19 protocol and guidelines, of course. Another thing that we're doing at this point, for example, this is a very good example I'd like to share with you. We are speaking right now with a high school in our city by the name of St. John and Antietam. And what we're attempting to do with the high schoolers at this point, and also the high schoolers from the MPS school system, is to provide them with workshops both in Spanish and in English as to how to apply for financial aid. But we're also doing it with the parents. Why? because the research and the data shows that if you instruct the parents, they are the support system that are going to be around the students, that are going to help the students to not just apply, but to also stay in school, right? So the idea is to show them that there is a pathway to MATC from the moment they are in high school. We are trying to help them out so that they have the assistance that they need, both in English and in Spanish. And we're also accessing, attempting to do the outreach with their parents so that they're all informed and coming through to MATC. Now, to answer your question in terms of the deadline is the 30th of June of this year. It is around that time every single year. And the reason for that is because it gives financial aid administrators the opportunity for them to be able to recall these applications whenever the applications are late, right? Or incomplete. So if they're incomplete, for example, they're going to need the W-2s, right? The federal government, for example, they attempt many times to recall applications at random. So it could be that out of 100 applications that we receive, about 30 or 50% of them are recalled by the U.S. Department of Education. So now that means that we have to put those applications on hold, and we have to conduct additional forms and ways of verification. Now, I do understand that the Biden and Harris administration is at this point attempting to work with their new Secretary of Education to remove those roadblocks that the Department of Education are putting, so that when we receive the financial aid applications, we can apply what is called our professional judgment, right? So our PJ or our professional judgment will then be used in an effective way for us to be able to streamline the applications that we received without having to go back to the Department of Education. So there are many pieces to the puzzle of ensuring that the students can apply, can remain with MATC, but at the same time, it takes us, right? We have to be on the know with these students. We are getting right now, for example, we're working with IT to make sure that we can have a system in which the questions that we ask our students, these are questions that are going to come up during the application stage, right? So when students apply, we will be asking them specific questions as to, are you in need of shelter? Are you in need of food? Are you in need of childcare? Again, all of these things are factors that are impacting the success of students. It's not just, this is how you apply for aid, this is how you apply to MATC, but how are we going to keep you in, right? Research shows, once again, that it is easier for us to keep students in, right? Keep the students that you have instead of losing the students that you have. And one of the ways in which we can do that is making sure that we have the systems in place to ensure that our students can not just come in, but stay and also be able to finish and successfully be able to transfer or get a job. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. I have a question on that, but Dr. Martin looked like she's about to jump out the chair. So if you want to say something, I'm going to go let you say it, and then I'll come back.
Well, thank you, Dr. Wilson. Director Wilson, I think that I was going to jump off my chair, but I did want to let Tony Tagliavia say a few words about M-Cubed, which is also working on the Fafsa Completion. We've worked with the mayor's office. We've worked with the Milwaukee Succeeds on this, and now we're working as M-Cubed with MPS and UWM. And Tony, I don't know if you want to say a few words about that. I think you work with that on it.
Absolutely, just very briefly, and I think Dr. Jans touched on it. The M-Cube partnership with MPS, MATC, and UWM has really done some impressive work over the years to increase the number of MPS seniors in particular who are completing the FAFSA. Some really significant growth since the partnership started, and that team, for that very reason, has been very keenly focused on the decrease that we've seen. And so we're actually focused on this right now. The whole partnership is looking at this, but in the communications team that I'm a part of, we're specifically looking at events and marketing that can be cross-community, across MPS, MATC, and UWM to reinforce the value, do a number of the things that Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus mentioned, but to really help families understand the importance of it, and get us back on track in terms of completion. So I just wanted to share that briefly.
Are we doing anything to enlist the support of local celebrities in getting people to come in for these events, or getting people to participate in these events? I mean, I'm thinking of the Milwaukee Bucks have been very generous with their time in a lot of places, and Packers have been generous with their time, and Brewers have been generous with their time. I'm sure there are others too, but you know, if Mr. Middleton was in a public service announcement saying, whatever we need to be said, come on down, and I'm going to be participating in this event, I would expect we get some results. Tony, I don't need to tell you that. Obviously, you know all these things, but I haven't seen that. I don't know if we're doing it in places where I don't see it. But those numbers are very concerning to me, because it's a year-on-year potential decline of double digits, and if we are facing that kind of an enrollment decline, I think things are going to have to look very different next year than they do now, and I don't think that's something we really want to hear. I also have this question, and I apologize, Director Wilson. I'll turn the floor back to you in just a moment because I know you were waiting. We saw that the ratio of advisors, I'm not sure which level of advisors, but counselors to students was now at about 1 to 500, with our long-term goal being 1 to about 350. Do we have enough people engaged in this follow-up work? Do we need more people than we've got to do it in order to handle the numbers? And does that create some opportunities for utilizing the part-time faculty or others that are otherwise underutilized right now? Again, I just raised the question. I don't know that it needs to be answered tonight, but it looks to me like we've got a lot of extra follow-up that needs to be done, and that means individuals picking up the phone and calling individuals probably multiple times before they connect, blah, blah, blah. And I just wonder if we have the ability and the need to put more people into that are not being fully employed right now. Maybe that's a question for Dr. Martin or whoever you would direct it to. I don't know.
Well, I would start and just indicate you really said it very well. We have a ratio of 1 to 500, and our target is 350 because we see that as so necessary. And there are pockets of places where the ratios are worse because we anticipated what would happen in the pathways, and if the numbers went higher in one pathway, we didn't have the staffing for it. So we're going to recalibrate that this spring. We obviously have to look at our FTE and look at our budget. But that's the idea. And I would also share with part of what you were saying. I don't want to put you on the spot, Dr. Dries, but the faculty mentoring program, I think, is something that we're on hold right now. But I think when that comes on board, it'll help a lot with the ongoing connections with our students.
Thank you. Director Wilson, did you have more to say?
Yes, you had actually asked one of the questions I wanted to know about advisors, and I think we need to have more discussion about that. So that was one of my questions. But the other thing is, all due respect, Chair Foley, the Bucks, the Brewers, and all of them happen to be men. We've got to look at, we have women right in this city and in this state and in this country, because a lot of our students are women, and there are even those on the board. So when we do that, let's try to, if we're going to do it, to spread it out, to make sure that we include women in this, because we like to see each other do great things.
Of course. Anyone else on the board have questions about the enrollment report?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Director Phelps-Coro.
So within our enrollments, what percentage of students do you project to be dropped in the near future for various reasons? So maybe this is a question that you can answer for maybe next meeting, but what percentage of students are going to be dropped by faculty or have been dropped by faculty? What percentage of students are actually dropping their own classes, and what is the demographic of those people dropped from the classes?
I don't have those figures, but I'd be happy to investigate that and bring it forward for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about the data that you heard about earlier with, I think the number was 500 students deregistered in early January. I don't know what that's about, but it does not sound like a good thing. And that may be the same sort of question that Director Phelps-Coro is getting at, as to who's dropping out and why. Obviously, and I know you all recognize it has to be a top priority. Those numbers are difficult to look at. We spent a good part of the previous 5 years talking about how to increase enrollment and how to remarket and recast and all these things. And yes, I know COVID is a major part of this. And yes, I know demographics is a major part of it, but we need to overcome those things, not just suffer the consequences of them. So anyone else?
Yes, so Chair, maybe we need to change the direction of our retreat. Since if we don't get some more people, all those other questions may be moved.
That's a good point. Anyone else on the board?
Just one more question. What factor does dual enrollment play into the overall strategy? And are we increasing, making tracks for the dual enrollment?
I'll be glad to address that question, Dr. Jans.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for the question. In fact, this is one area where we're seeing some growth in dual enrollment while the other numbers are being declined. So I'll be glad to get back to you with specific numbers and specific strategies being used in this area.
Thank you.
Please send that to all the board members.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Next on the agenda is a pathways presentation, creative arts design and media. Materials were distributed about this. Dr. Dackwar, do you want to add anything before we find out if there are any questions?
No, actually, unless you have any questions. So I have Dr. Brian Carlson, also the Dean of that pathway, available to address any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board members about this pathway? The art examples were wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next agenda item, any new business? I think that I've already put on new business for next month, further discussion about enrollment and drops and that sort of thing. So we'll have that as an agenda item. Is there anything else? Okay, announcements about future events. We've already talked about the first two of these, the February ACCT National Legislative Summit. In February, there is also the American Public Television Station's Public Media Summit. I've been to multiples of those. Director Case has been to those. I'm sorry, I've forgotten who else on the board currently may have been to those. I think it's probably going to be virtual this year, which will be, you won't actually get to meet Bert and Ernie. You'll just have to look at them again. But I encourage you all to look at participating in these. And then the February district board meeting will be on February 23rd, beginning at 4:00 p.m. That is the end of our public agenda for tonight. We have a closed session to deal with multiple matters. Is there a motion to move into closed session? Director Olson, do you have that one?
I don't unmute myself there, so sorry about that. I move that the district board convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes to discuss item 11A, president's semi-annual evaluation, and per section 19.851B and C of the Wisconsin statutes, item 11B, review of termination appeal by Lisa Pushek. The board may reconvene into open session to take action on matters discussed in closed session under 11B.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor of going into closed session, indicate that please by saying aye.
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 Chair, you need a roll call.
Yes, we need a roll call on that.
Thank you. Ms. Green, you want to take the roll on that?
Sure. Director Mays?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Phelps-Socorro?
Aye.
Director Wilson?
Aye.
Director Case?
Aye.
Director Hamilton?
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos?
Aye.
Director Mitchell?
Aye.
Director Foley?
Aye. All right, we will move into closed session. I suggest we take, let's say 10 minutes break before we do that. And will we be moving into another room on Zoom, or how is this going to work?
I will move you manually to a breakout room and put you in closed session.
Okay, so it's now 6:26. Let's be back in 10 minutes, and let's try to stick to that time so that we can get out of here at a reasonable time tonight. Thank you all for presented information and asked questions, and
All right,
yeah, we are back in
open session.
In open session, and Beth, would you please record that we did that at 7:08? Because Gwen always asks me, and I always forget by the time she asks.
Oh.
All right, so we are in open session. Is there a motion regarding to sustain the decision of the independent hearing officer in connection with the appeal of Lisa Pushek?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Olson. Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need a roll call, Jose?
You don't need a roll call to act on this. So the motion is to sustain the IHO's decision.
Right.
Confirming the termination.
Yep. With all those.
And Beth, and it's very clear, Beth, that we're in open session now.
Yes, we are in open session. We're recording. Okay. We're live on YouTube. Okay. So yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All those,
Chair.
We have a motion.
Chair.
And,
I'm
yes.
going to request a roll call.
Okay. Fine. We'll do a roll call. We have a motion by Director Olson, was it? And a second by, I'm sorry, I didn't write this down. Who made the second?
Director Case.
Director Case, thank you. To sustain the decision of the independent hearing officer. Ms. Green, would you please take the vote by roll call?
Certainly. Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Phelps-Socorro?
Aye.
Director Wilson?
Aye.
Director Case?
Aye.
Director Hamilton?
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos?
Aye.
Director Foley?
Aye.
Director Mitchell,
Aye.
Director Mays.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. The motion to sustain passes. That's the end of our agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
A move to adjourn.
Thank you,
Second.
Director Hamilton. And who is the second?
Phelps Okoro.
Thank you, Director Phelps-Sakura. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? There being none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.